Welcome to True Crime Cases. Today, we are unveiling a shocking story of jealousy. Kevin was the kind of man who lived with his heart on his sleeve. At 29 years old, he had carved out a modest career as a freelance photographer. His art was his life, and through his lens he found meaning in the fleeting beauty of moments, whether it was the radiant smile of a bride, the joy in a child's laughter, or the quiet elegance of a sunset. Kevin captured life's essence with an almost poetic reverence, yet Kevin's personal life was far less pictures. Raised by his mother Isabella, an immigrant from Italy who worked tirelessly as a seamstress, Kevin grew up understanding sacrifice and Kevin resilience. Isabella's sacrifices had shaped him, instilling in him a profound sense of loyalty and love. He was determined to build a life where he could provide the stability his mother had always dreamed of. Kevin's passion wasn't limited to his work, it extended to the people he loved. When he fell for Harley, it wasn't just love, it was devotion. She became his muse, his obsession, the subject of his dreams and aspirations. In her presence, the world seemed brighter. He envisioned a future where their love would be the foundation of something beautiful and enduring. But Kevin's intensity, while romantic, also made him vulnerable. He didn't realize that his love for Harley would soon lead him down a path of heartbreak and vengeance. At 26, Harley Harper was the epitome of charm and beauty. Her dark, almond-shaped eyes seemed to hold mysteries, and her radiant smile could disarm even the most guarded hearts. To those who knew her casually, she was a kind, ambitious woman with dreams of a better life. But Harley's ambitions were far more calculated than she. Born in a small town to parents who worked tirelessly just to make ends meet, Harley grew up acutely aware of what it meant to struggle. Her father, a mechanic, and her mother, a waitress, had instilled in her strong work ethic, but also a deep fear of financial insecurity. She vowed early on that she would never endure the hardships her parents faced. Harley learned quickly that her beauty was a powerful tool. Throughout her late teens and early 20s, she used her charm to navigate social circles, always keeping an eye out for opportunities to climb the social ladder. When she met Kevin, she was drawn to his passion and creativity. He treated her like a queen, showering her with love and attention. But as their relationship deepened, Harley began to see Kevin as a stepping stone rather than a soulmate. Her sights were set higher. She wanted luxury, stability, the kind of life Kevin, despite his best intentions, could never provide. And then fate introduced her to Eric at 31. Eric was on the cusp of life-changing success, a brilliant software developer. Eric had recently signed a deal with a tech company that promised to make him millionaire within a year. He was the kind of man who exuded confidence, stability, qualities that made him a magnet for those seeking security. Raised in a supportive and loving family, Eric had a strong moral compass. He believed in the power of hard work and the importance of building genuine relationships. His parents had been married for over 3 decades, setting an example of love and commitment that Tyron aspired to emulate. When Eric met Harley at a mutual friend's party, he was immediately captivated. She seemed different from the women he usually met, charming, down to earth, and deeply interested in his life and dreams. Harley knew exactly how to present herself as the perfect partner. She listened intently as Eric spoke about his goals, his family, and his vision for the future. Unbeknownst to Eric, Harley's sincerity was an act. She saw in him the stability and wealth she craved, and she was determined to make him hers, no matter the cost. For months, Harley juggled her relationships with Kevin and Eric. With Kevin, she maintained the facade of a loving girlfriend, while with Eric, she carefully constructed a narrative of being a woman who had waited her whole life for a man like him. But as Eric's deal came closer to fruition, Harley's priorities shifted. She began withdrawing from Kevin, canceling plans and avoiding his calls. Kevin, who had always been attuned to Harley's moods, sensed that something was wrong. he dismissed his initial doubts, convincing himself that Harley was simply busy. But as the weeks went on, her excuses became flimsier, her absence more pronounced. One evening, after weeks of evasion, Kevin decided to confront Harley. He invited her to his apartment, hoping to reignite the spark in their relationship. But when Harley arrived, her demeanor was cold and distant. "What's going on, Harley?" Kevin asked, his voice tinged with desperation. "You've been acting so distant. Is there someone else?" Harley hesitated, her eyes darting away from Morrow's. For a moment, she considered lying, but then she decided it was time to cut ties. "Kevin," she began, her tone firm but devoid of emotion, "you're a great guy, but I need more. I need stability. I need a future." Kevin's heart sank. "I thought I was your future," he said, his voice breaking. Harley met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "You'll understand someday," she said before walking out the door, leaving Kevin in stunned silence. In the days that followed, Kevin was consumed by heartbreak. He replayed their conversation over and over, trying to make sense of what had gone wrong. He couldn't believe that the woman he had loved so deeply could discard him so easily. But as the pain subsided, it was replaced by anger. Kevin began to see Harley not as the woman he loved, but as manipulator who had used him and cast him aside. His heartbreak transformed into a burning desire for revenge. One night, in a moment of anger and desperation, Kevin sent Harley message, "You'll regret this, Harley. Mark my words." Harley, unfazed, blocked Kevin on every platform, changed her number, erased him from her life. To tyrant, she continued to play the role of the perfect partner, weaving a story of innocence and devotion that he eagerly believed. But Kevin wasn't willing to let go. His love for Harley had turned into an obsession, one that would drive him to unimaginable lengths. The weeks after Kevin's warning slipped into months, and Harley fully immersed herself in her new role at Eric's fiance. Her life became a whirlwind of luxury, dinner parties, and wedding planning. She had traded Kevin's modest apartment, impromptu coffee dates for Eric's sprawling home, and fine dining experiences. Eric adored her. He showered her with gifts, a diamond necklace for her birthday, a brand new car when she casually mentioned her old one was giving her trouble, and an exotic vacation just because he thought she needed a break. Harley basked in the tension, all while skillfully maintaining her carefully crafted narrative of being Eric's first, only true love. For Kevin, the months following Harley's betrayal were torturous. He had tried to move on, throwing himself into his photography and spending time with friends, but nothing could fill the void he had left. Every time he saw a couple holding hands or a bride walking down the aisle, he was reminded of what he had lost and lies that had destroyed him. Kevin's heartbreak festered into a dangerous obsession. He began following Harley on social media, using a fake account, piecing together her new life with Tyrant. Each post felt like a dagger to his heart, a photo of Tyrant slipping an engagement ring onto Harley's finger, video of them laughing together at party, a caption that read, "My forever." As Kevin delved deeper into his obsession, he discovered details about Eric's upcoming wedding. The event was set to take place at an opulent venue in downtown Atlanta, complete with a guest list of over 200 people. Harley had spared no expense, ensuring her wedding was the talk of the town. It was during one of these late night stalking sessions that Kevin had an idea, a way to expose Harley for the liar she truly was. He remembered countless intimate moments they had shared, many of which he had captured on his camera. Among them was a video, raw, unfiltered, and damning. Kevin knew that if he played the video at Harley's wedding, her carefully constructed facade would crumble. The thought filled him with a twisted sense of satisfaction. He didn't care about the consequences anymore. All he wanted was for Harley to feel the same humiliation and betrayal he had endured. As the wedding day approached, Harley was consumed with excitement. She spent her days meeting with florists, tasting cake samples and attending dress fittings. Eric, who had little interest in the finer details, happily let Harley take the reins one evening as they sat together reviewing the guest list. Eric glanced at Harley and said, "You're really amazing. You know that I've never met someone so dedicated." Harley smiled, leaning into his embrace. "I just want everything to be perfect," she replied, her voice sweet as honey. But as Eric kissed her forehead and turned back to the list, Harley's smile faltered in the back of her mind. Kevin's warning lingered like a shadow. She pushed the thought aside, convincing herself that she had erased him from her life for good. Unbeknownst to Harley, Kevin had spent weeks preparing for this moment. He had managed to secure an invite to the wedding by posing as guest plus one. His plan was simple but devastating. He would replace the wedding slideshow with the incriminating video and watch as Harley's world unravel. The morning of the wedding arrived with all the pomp and splendor Harley had envisioned. The venue, a grand ballroom adorned with crystal chandeliers, cascading floral arrangements, was testament to her meticulous planning. Guests began to arrive dressed in their finest attire, their chatter filling the air with excitement. Harley, clad in breathtaking white gown, stood in the bridal suite surrounded by her bridesmaids as they fussed over her veil and bouquet. She couldn't help but feel hang of unease. She dismissed it as pre-wedding jitters, choosing instead to focus on the moment. Eric, meanwhile, stood with his groomsmen, adjusting his cufflinks and cracking jokes to hide his nervousness. He was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Kevin arrived early, blending seamlessly with the crowd. Dressed in a tailored suit, he looked every bit the part of an invited guest. He carried with him a small USB drive containing the video that would change everything as the ceremony began. Kevin positioned himself near the tech booth, where the AV equipment was set up for the wedding slideshow. The tech crew, busy with last-minute preparations, paid little attention as Kevin discreetly swapped out the original slideshow file with his own. The ceremony proceeded without hitch. Harley and Eric exchanged vows, their voices trembling with emotion. Guests wiped away tears as they witnessed the couple's declaration of love, but Kevin wasn't moved as he watched Harley promise herself to Eric. He felt nothing but a cold, simmering rage. The reception began with laughter and joy. Guests mingled, the clinking of champagne glasses punctuating their conversations. The atmosphere was electric, a celebration of love and new beginnings. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the wedding slideshow. As the lights dimmed and the first images appeared on the screen, the room fell silent. The slideshow began, innocently enough, with childhood photos of Harley and Tyron, followed by snapshots of their courtship. But as slideshow continued, the images abruptly changed. The screen now displayed an intimate video of Harley and Kevin, their faces unmistakable. The audio was explicit, leaving no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Gasps filled the room as guests turned to look at Harley, whose face had gone pale. Eric, seated beside her, stared at the screen in stunned silence. "Turn it off," Harley screamed, her voice breaking. The tech crew scrambled to comply, but the damage was done. Eric rose from his seat, his face a mixture of shock and betrayal. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice low and trembling. Harley tried to reach for him, but he stepped back, his hands raised defensively. "Don't touch me," he said, his voice cold. Kevin, standing at the back of the room, watched the chaos unfold with sense of grim satisfaction. His mission was complete. The grand ballroom that had once been filled with joy, celebration, now echoed with chaos. Harley's world unraveled before her eyes as guests whispered, exchanged horrified glances, and even started recording the spectacle on their phones. Tyron, frozen in place, was the epicenter of the storm. The betrayal he had just witnessed gnawed at his very soul, replacing his love for Harley with unbridled anger, humiliation. His chest rose and fell rapidly as he fought to steady his emotions. Harley, on the other hand, was desperate to salvage the situation. Eric, listen to me, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face as she reached for him. It's not what it looks like, not what it looks like. Eric's voice was venomous, his anger barely contained. That was you, wasn't it, or is this another one of your lies? I can explain, Lana cried, her voice cracking. Explain what, Harley? Eric shot back, his voice rising. That you've been lying to me this entire time, that you're nothing but fraud. The tension in the room was palpable. Guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to intervene or leave the couple to sort out their issues privately in a desperate bid to control the situation. Harley grabbed Eric's arm and pulled him toward a private room just off the ballroom. Please, Eric, we need to talk, she begged. He allowed her to lead him, though his movements were stiff, his body language screaming resistance. Once inside, Harley closed the door and leaned against it as if shutting the world out would somehow undo the damage. Eric, I swear I never meant for this to happen, she started, her voice trembling. Kevin is just, he's from my past. He's obsessed with me and I didn't know how to tell you your ass. Eric's voice was cold. You told me I was your first love, that there was no one before me, and now I find out you've been with someone else, and worse, that he has this kind of dirt on you. Harley's composure cracked. I lied because I didn't want to lose you. You're everything I've ever wanted. Eric, Kevin means nothing to me, I promise. Eric laughed bitterly. You don't even hear yourself, do you? You lied, Harley, over again, and you made me look like fool in front of everyone. I know. Please, Eric, she whispered, stepping closer. I love you. Don't you dare say that to me, he snapped, stepping back, his eyes, once filled with adoration, now brimmed with disgust. As the argument escalated, Eric turned toward the door, his mind made up. I'm done, Harley. This wedding is over. No, Harley cried, her voice desperate as she grabbed his arm. You can't just leave me like this. Let go of me, Eric shouted, his anger boiling over. Harley clung to him, her nails digging into his sleeve. Eric, please, I can fix this. I'll do anything. Eric, fueled by rage and humiliation, yanked his arm free with more force than he intended. Harley stumbled backward, her heels catching on the edge of the carpet. Time seemed to slow as she lost her balance and tumbled toward the staircase. Behind her, Harley, Eric SC screamed, reaching out too late. Her body hit the stairs with a sickening thud, her head snapping back as it struck the edge of step. She tumbled down the staircase in lifeless heat, finally coming to rest at the bottom. Blood pooled beneath her head, staining the pristine white carpet. For a moment there was silence. Eric stood frozen at the top of the stairs, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Then the realization hit him like a freight train. No, he whispered, his voice breaking. No, no, no. He raced down the stairs, collapsing beside Harley's still form. Her once vibrant eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, and her body lay unnaturally twisted. Eric's hands shook as he cradled her head, his tears falling onto her lifeless face. I didn't mean to, he sobbed. I didn't mean for this to happen. The chaos from the ballroom had spilled into the hallway as guests rushed to see what had happened. Gasps and murmur filled the air as they took in the gruesome scene. Someone called 911, and within minutes the police and paramedics arrived. Tyrant still kneeling beside Harley didn't resist when the officer pulled him to his feet. His hands and suit were stained with blood, and his face was a picture of devastation. She's dead, he whispered, his voice hollow. I killed her. And an officer gently guided him away, his tone calm but firm. Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. As Eric was led out of the venue in handcuffs, the once celebratory atmosphere of the wedding was replaced with an overwhelming sense of tragedy. Meanwhile, Kevin had slipped away amidst the chaos. He watched from a distance as the police swarmed the venue, a satisfied smirk on his face. In his mind, justice had been served. Harley had paid the price for her betrayal, and Eric had been spared a lifetime of lies. Kevin's revenge, however, came at a cost he knew He couldn't return to his old life. The video he had played was his signature, and it wouldn't take long for the authorities to trace it back to him. That night, Kevin boarded a bus to a distant city, leaving behind the life he had once known. Tyrant's trial was media sensation. The prosecution painted him as a man consumed by jealousy, rage, while the defense argued that Harley's death was a tragic accident. Witnesses testified to the tension between Eric and Harley on the day of the wedding, and the video Kevin had played was entered into evidence. Despite the damning footage, Eric's genuine remorse and clean record worked in his favor. In the end, Tyrant was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 5 years in prison. The judge acknowledged that while Harley's death was unintentional, Eric's actions had directly led to the tragedy. Eric served his sentence quietly, spending his time reflecting on the choices that had led to that fateful day. Kevin, meanwhile, remained a free man, his whereabouts unknown. The story of Harley, Eric, and Kevin became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the destructive power of lies, betrayal, and unchecked emotions. In the end, no one truly won.